is about you. And the truth that will set you free is about you. It's about who you are, and it's about whether or not who you consider yourself to be is really who you are. Or have you just learned to take on that identity from the society that you grew up in? And everybody else learned it, and so you were just going along with what seemed to be reality, to learn about the idea that you're your body, to learn about the idea that you have this personality, to learn about the idea that you're separate from everybody else, you're separate from life, you're separate from the world. And then to develop yourself, to be able to compete in the game we're playing in the world, to make money, to get ahead in the world, to control your life, to try and set up a reality that you can find a partner, get married, raise a family, all of it. The only problem with that is that right now, for anybody that wants to know what's really going on, in this country, there is a crisis, a mental health crisis. And that mental health crisis involves addiction, drug use, depression, anxiety, anger, rage. And that crisis manifests itself in prescription medication being sold to the billions and billions of dollars. And then there's illegal drugs being sold for billions and billions of dollars, and alcohol, and now you can get marijuana, it's not illegal in most places anymore. And then alongside of all that, we have the distractions that people are preoccupied with, watching TV, watching sports, doing things to keep your attention off fear and worry and concern and problems, and try and get some pleasure out of this life and avoid the suffering and the pain as best you can. And that's the situation we're in. It's not a very pretty situation. It's not being given the attention that it would require for it to be different for all of us. The education system's in the toilet. Mental health care almost doesn't exist because for people who have the coverage for mental health services, which is minimal, most people don't have it, and so they don't get the appropriate care and treatment to be able to deal with the problems they're having. So we're living in an unworkable reality, whether we talk about it in terms of your individual life, or talk about it in terms of our society, or talk about it in terms of the world. It's an unworkable society. The evidence speaks very clearly about that for anybody that's interested. And meditation can be the beginning of a solution to that problem. It could be the beginning of learning to understand yourself and your life a different way. And it can be the beginning of learning to experience your life and yourself a different way, so that you behave differently, you think differently, you feel differently. You can discover your natural ability to be happy. You can discover your natural ability to function well in the world. You don't have to follow in footstep with the rest of the sick world. You don't have to fly with the flock that's flying off a cliff, or run with the herd that's running off a cliff. You can take responsibility for your mind, and you can take responsibility for your body. But we don't live in a society that promotes that. If you watch TV, most of what you're being sold are things you don't need or things that'll kill you. Hard to find anything but that these days as far as commercials are concerned. So this is an opportunity to come to discover a possibility. And this possibility's been around for 2,500 years or more. It's the possibility of understanding that if we sit still and be quiet and focus our attention on our inner world and our thinking and our emotions and our sensations in the body, we can begin to change the way we are. We can begin to realize that our true nature is different than we were told it was. We were told we're separate from the world and other people in life. But if you look at the evidence, that's not the case. None of us could survive at all without breathing, which means you're interacting with the world. The universe is providing water and air for your existence, and you're dependent on that water and air for your existence. So when you really pay attention, you can see that it isn't the case that you're separate from the world. You are a part of the world. You're an integral part of the world. And when you can experience that truth, life changes. Life changes. You discover that who you really are is the awareness that is always present in your experience, rather than the person that you think you are that gets generated by the thought process. And your conditioning. You're conditioned to learn that you're a person and a personality. You're conditioned to learn that your life is a story that you're in. You're the star of the movie, but you don't necessarily have control over what happens in that movie. And for most of us, the movie in many ways is tragic, because for most human beings, they never wake up and come out of this state of sleep, this state of hypnotism, in which we believe we're a physical body and we believe we're this personality that's living in a story. None of which is true. And the fact that it's not true can be proven simply by doing an inquiry, simply by looking closely at what you believe and what you think to see if it's true. For example, one of my favorite examples that is a major example of how people are stuck and confused. All of us have a voice in our head, right? You have a voice in your head? All of us have a voice in our head. We call that thinking, right? The voice in your head is called thinking. But if it's true that that's you, then you're crazy. If that voice in your head is you, you're crazy. And how do I know you're crazy? Because it must be like the voice in my head, which means that it talks crazy talk. It says nasty things about me. And if it's me, if that voice is me, then I must be crazy, because I use it to talk about myself in a negative way. So the voice in your head is complaining, it's narrating things. It's a fear-based operation, right? It's complaining, it's narrating things. It's judging and evaluating all the time, whether you like it or not, and you're included in the judgments that the voice makes. So if that voice in your head is you thinking, then you must be crazy given what that voice says. And so people walk around trying to hide that they're crazy. People walk around many times thinking that other people's voices in their head must not be as crazy as the one in my head, so I don't want them to find out I got a crazy one and you got a sane one. But in reality, we're all just pretending. Everybody's pretending that they're sane, right? That's why people don't share what the voice says, because you're afraid that people will stop hanging around with you, right? If you could get away from it yourself, you would, right? But you can't. No matter where you go, it's there. You can try and improve your life by moving to a nice place in the world where there's a beautiful environment, right? But you and that voice will go there and be miserable, right? Because that voice can turn anything into misery, right? So meditation is a way of coming out of that delusional state in which you think the voice in your head is you. And just that one change can change your life. Because if you start paying attention to that voice, not like it's you, then you're going to start realizing that there's a lot of what it's saying that you don't want to get involved with. There's a lot of what it's saying that you'd be better off not listening to. And you can stop listening to it by simply using the natural discretion that you have as awareness, because awareness is your natural state, is your real self. And you can use the natural discretion that awareness has to pay attention. This is why we're practicing meditation, to learn how to pay attention consistently. To pay attention so that we can see when that voice goes off the rails, when it's talking crazy talk, when it's accusing me of things, when it's judging and evaluating, and that's just causing more craziness, stop paying attention to it. When we practice meditation, what are we doing? We're moving our attention from thinking to being aware of the body breathing, being aware of the breath. You're practicing coming out of your mind. Your mind is where the voice talks. When you practice meditation, you're practicing moving your attention out of the mind over to the awareness of the body breathing. And when it's there, things are peaceful. When it's there, there is no voice in your head. It's quiet. It's peaceful. It's refreshing. There's a relief. But you can't stay there long enough to really experience that, because as soon as a thought arises, you're right back into thinking. So you don't stay there hardly at all in the beginning when you're practicing meditation. You pretty much just touch it for a few seconds, and then a thought comes and you're back into thinking. A lot of people think, well, I can't meditate then. How am I going to meditate if I can't keep my attention on the breath? Well, nobody can keep their attention on the breath. You must not understand the practice. No, the practice is, as soon as you realize that your attention has left the breath, to bring it back to the breath. No matter how many times it does it, no matter how quickly it doesn't matter. That's the practice. But we're all goal-oriented human beings. We all want to win. We all want to be in control. We all want to be able to say that I succeeded in meditation. And the people who don't really understand how to meditate think what that means is, I've stopped the thinking. I've stopped the thinking from happening. So now I've succeeded in meditation. That's not true at all. That's a misunderstanding. Meditation is not about stopping thinking. Meditation is about being aware of thinking and knowing that you're not the voice in your head, you're not the thinker of the thoughts, and you're aware of thinking. And when you are aware of thinking, you're using natural discretion to recognize whether the thoughts are useful or practical, or whether they're just neurotic and crazy. And when they are, you move your attention away from it. You don't keep participating in madness. So if you learn to meditate, and if you practice this consistently, you'll stop spending time in crazy town. You'll stop spending your life in a crazy conversation about everything that never goes anywhere. And you'll start to discover that there is a real you, a natural you, that we call awareness itself, that's never not here. It's always here. It's in the background for almost all of humanity because everybody's distracted. Everybody's preoccupied with paying attention to thinking all the time, and feeling all the time, and doing all the time. You know, trying to change everything, control everything, get rid of things, get more things. This is the rat race. So if you want to come out of the rat race, learning to meditate is a way that you can succeed in coming out of the rat race. It's a way that you can learn to relax. You can change your body. You can change your mental states. You can experience a natural state of happiness and well-being. You can feel peace. You can feel satisfaction and contentment. And you can be much more better at interacting with the world. You can be a lot more skillful in your relationships because you stop listening to that crazy talk in your head. And then you can experience the possibility of your life. You can experience that life can be satisfying. Life can be happy. Life can be fulfilling. So that as life passes and you get old and the body starts to get old and we're facing the end of life, you can feel that you've been here, and you can feel that you enjoyed the experience of being here. You were fulfilled. You had a fulfilling life. But that is not going to happen by itself. That's not going to happen by itself. And that's where meditation comes in, because meditation is a way to begin to undo the mess that you have become. Meditation is a way to undo the mess that you have become. It's a mess. When you have this voice in your head that's unleashed, that you think is you, that's mad, that's talking crazy talk, that's judging and evaluating everything, that's driving you crazy, that keeps you up at night, that makes you anxious, that makes you fearful, that causes you to do stupid stuff and say stupid stuff. That's no life to live. That's no life to live. That's where people came up with this contemporary philosophical approach to life called life sucks and then you die. People smile when they say that, but they really do mean it, right? Because what do you got to look forward to? Death, old age, sickness, illnesses, losing everybody that you know in your family. So it looks like when you look on the face of it, it looks like the facts don't read well. It looks like the facts don't bode well. This is not a good situation, because in the end, first of all, in the end I die. Secondly, time's flying. It's going a lot faster than I thought it was, especially for us older folks. So we don't have much time, right? And we're going to get sick. I mean, you know, at some point when you get to my age, it's only a matter of time before you get the diagnosis, right? You're going to get a diagnosis. Probably get more than one diagnosis, right? And the body starts to fall apart. Your energy level starts to go down, right? And you start to consider things like cremation or burial. But in these teachings and practices, it's possible to transcend that whole situation. Possible to transcend that whole situation and experience yourself as a non-physical spiritual entity, right? Because these teachings tell us the truth is you're not your body. The truth is you are not physical. The word spiritual means not physical. The awareness is your true nature. The awareness is your true self. And the awareness is not physical. And if it's true that that's true, then you can move out of the misunderstanding that you're a physical body, and you can move out of the misunderstanding that you're this psychological character that got put together, living in some story, some drama usually. You can come out of that. So these practices are transcendental. You can transcend that life, that limited life. And as Jesus Christ said, who was a teacher of meditation, I offer you life everlasting. What did he mean? Well, if it's true that you are the awareness that is not physical rather than the physical body, then when the body dies, you're not affected because you're not physical. Awareness is not physical. So there's a whole new possibility, a whole new realm of understanding that can be taken on board and understood and realized and practiced and experienced. And it can begin with the practice of meditation, to begin to go sane, to begin to see things as they really are, not the way they appear to you, because the way they appear to you is what you were taught when you were a child and you didn't know any better. And then you got brought into a world in which everything seems to be a certain way, but that's an appearance. Things appear to be a certain way. We appear to be physical bodies, right? We appear to be personalities. But these ancient wisdom teachings tell us that that's the surface of it. The reality of it, when you go deeper, is that that's not actually the case. And that's why teachers over the ages have talked about meditation as a way of saving your life, as a way of waking up, as a way of coming out of the insane, coming out of the neurosis, coming out of the depression and anxiety, and learning how to live life in freedom and in peace. So that's the possibility. And you know, they think it's religion, or they think it's some weird stuff that people do, right? They think it's mystical, strange. These people are strange. I'm sure people walk by that window sometimes and look in here and say, boy, look at those people in there. They're just sitting there. What the hell are they doing? That's not useful. That's a waste of time, right? So you find out when you start to practice meditation and you start to listen to the teachings that go along with it, that what is commonly understood by most people to be true and real and the way things are is a big mistake. It's a big mistake. And the evidence is obvious. It's not an accident that we still have wars, murdering people and bombing people. That's not an accident. It's not an accident that the politics in this country have gone haywire. It's not an accident that we're destroying the planet. The evidence speaks very clearly for the fact that we must be pretty sick. If there are aliens, they must be pretty intelligent to stay away. The stuff that I say will go right past you, you know? It'll go right past you because the mind defends itself against its current status. The mind doesn't like to change. The mind feels threatened by this information because it's basically saying that the position that the mind has in your life, which is dominating, most people's minds are dominating their life. What do I mean by that? I mean that the thinking activity that occurs in your mind is what you listen to determine what you're going to do, isn't it? Therefore, your mind is running your life. And if you are not the thinker of the thoughts that are occurring in your mind, right, then you don't have anything to say about what the mind's doing to run your life. And when it makes mistakes, you pay. And it makes a lot of mistakes, right? So you got to come out of that. You've got to realize that it's possible for you to directly operate in the world and not have your mind tell you what to do. Not have your mind react and tell you who to hate and tell you what's wrong, right? And tell you, what to do to prove to people that they can't control you or hurt you and so forth. That's the common way of human behavior, isn't it, around the world, right? If you do anything to threaten me, I'll threaten you back, right? You go into an automatic thing that's thousands of years old that worked in the jungle, but we're not in the jungle anymore, right? So one of the things that we learn here is we learn to update our brain. We learn to update the operating system here, right? So we don't have to act like we're being chased all day by wild animals, right? And we don't have to act in relationship to each other like you're out to get me. As soon as you say something that sounds a little critical to me, then I have to look at you another way, like, I can see what I can see what's going on here, right? So we turn into detectives, and we turn into policemen, and we turn into people who are philosophers and judges and evaluators, and it's insanity. The first thing you have to do to make the commitment necessary to wake up and come out of the state of mind that people are in is face the truth. That the way human beings are living on this planet, the way we're relating to one another is insane. The way you're relating to yourself is insane. It's a miracle we haven't, a miracle we're still here on this planet, given the way we behave. It's a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle that, given all the cars that are on the roads these days, it's a miracle that there aren't more people getting killed. And the reason for that is very interesting. The reason for that is because you learn to drive, your brain learns how to drive the car, so then once you've learned sufficiently how to drive the car, you can start to text, listen to the radio, talk on the phone, talk to other people in the car, right? They even have on the electric cars, well, most cars now, they have a computer screen, right? So you can email, you can talk to the car, How can you do all that and still be safe? You can do all that and still be safe because your brain's driving the car, not you. If it was up to you, there'd be a lot more people being killed on the road. Your brain's a lot better at doing things than you are. If it wasn't for your brain learning how to do the necessary things that you and I have to do in life, we wouldn't be around very long at all. Because the thing human beings are the best at, right? The thing that human beings are the best at is operating in their life in such a way where they are not able to act in their own best interest. If you take that on and you really let yourself face the truth about it, right? Look at your own life. How much of the time are you unable to act in your own best interest? In other words, how much of the time do you do things that blow up in your face? How much of the time do you say things to people you're close to that end you up in a fight? How much of the time do you put stuff in your body that's poison? How much of the time do you not get enough activity to maintain the exercise your body needs to be healthy? Starts to look like you're in detriment. Starts to look like you're a detriment to yourself. Most people don't have the audacity to be that honest, right? But if you were, and you really looked at the evidence, you would have to admit, I'm a detriment to myself. Unless I can find a way to stop thinking what I'm thinking and behaving the way I'm behaving and saying what I'm saying and not doing what I'm not doing, I'm hurting myself most of the time. That's the truth. It doesn't get told like that because most of us are in denial, just like we are about death and everything else that's true. So it begins with being willing to open your eyes and look and see what's true. And when you see what's true, it'll be easy to be motivated to learn to meditate. You'll be afraid not to. And you ought to be afraid not to, especially given what this has to offer, because if you do practice it, and especially if you learn the teachings that go along with it, you'll start to feel the difference. You'll start to feel like you're coming out of the dark. You'll start to feel like that you're naturally interested in taking care of your body. You start to feel that you're naturally interested in discovering who you really are that's already happy, instead of trying to be happy. So that's what's possible, that's what's available, and that's why I teach meditation here. But I'll tell you something, the way that I would look at this is to say, I don't call what most human beings are doing life. Yeah, I call it stupidity and insanity. Okay. And so for me, the way I see it, especially having practiced this for all these years and experienced the difference it makes, I say life begins when you wake up. I say life begins when you know who you really are. Up until that time, you're just playing a script. You're playing the script that you were given. You were conditioned a certain way. You were told what your name is and what you're good at and what you're not good at, and what life is all about and what you should do and how important it is to get an education and make money and all the rest of it, right? That's your script, right? So all you're doing is playing a script. Playing a script until you wake up and you know who you are and you're experiencing being the awareness that is the truth of who you are, right? You're not alive. You don't have any life. What life do you have?
But
that's not real life.
If you look at it from your true self, your consciousness, your awareness, then you are always here. Isn't that the case?
If you are being what you are, if you're being that awareness, you see. But it's important to do the practice, and it's important to get the teaching. The teaching has to go deep. The teaching has to go deep. You have to have deep understandings, because one of the things you said can be something that you can get stuck in for the rest of your life, and that is that if you're aware, see, now watch the subtlety of this. This is for the advanced students. If you're aware, right, you would think that means that you're being your true self, and therefore you should be experiencing the awake state and what that has to offer, right? But now watch. If you're aware, see, if you're aware, you can step right over that and not get.
Awareness is aware.
Yeah, you can step right over that and realize that you're never going to be aware, because the you that you consider yourself to be doesn't even exist, really. So how can you ever be aware? See? But the way your conditioning will have you talk is to say it that way. But if I don't catch it and I go along with it, right, then I'm helping you to stay stuck and lost. So if I do catch it, then I have to say, well, I get where you're going, right? But until and unless you take out that if you're aware and replace it with when you are awareness, then you're on the right track. But if you are aware means, and that's the way everybody's going to talk, because everybody, your brain has it that you're a personality, so it's going to inject that in everything you say. It's going to inject it into everything that you say. So when it injects it into everything that you say, there aren't just thoughts, no, they're your thoughts. There aren't just feelings, no, they're your feelings. There isn't just money, no, it's your money. Isn't just a life, no, it's your life, you see? And so what you learned is that there's a real you, even though you can't find it anywhere. There's a real you somewhere, somehow, maybe behind the eyes here somewhere, even though it's not there. And this real you that doesn't exist anywhere is what's living your life. So that's something that has to be seen for what it is. It's an illusion.